So guys, in this next news story, 3 men have been sentenced for their involvement in an aggravated burglary in Redruth that saw one of them also convicted for attempted murder. In January, at Truro Crown Court, a jury returned their verdict after nearly 3 days of deliberation. They found Paul Amoah, who's 39, of Redruth, guilty of the attempted murder of a man, as well as one charge of wounding with intent. Lee Mitchell, who's 28, was found guilty of 2 charges of wounding with intent and aggravated burglary, and Gavin Smale, who's 44, of Redruth, was found guilty of unlawful wounding and aggravated burglary. There was a drug dealer who was known as Yarrick. He nearly died after being shot in the back by Amoah during a break-in at a property in Redruth last year. Another man in the property was hit 5 times on the head with a hammer by Mitchell during the incident at the house on July the 6th. All 3 defendants were back before the courts yesterday to be sentenced by Judge Simon Carr. Amoah was sentenced to a total of 27 years in prison. This was broken down into 27 years for attempted murder, 10 years for the Section 18 wounding with intent, and 8 years for the aggravated burglary. The latter 2 sentences are to be served concurrently. Mitchell was sentenced to a total of 9 years in prison, broken down into 9 years for one Section 18 wounding with intent and 5 years for a second wounding charge, with 8 years for aggravated burglary, all to run concurrently. The judge also issued a restraining order and the order for forfeiture and destruction of a handgun and hammer. And Smale, he was sentenced to a total of 7 years in prison. The court heard how on July the 6th, 2023, Amoah, Mitchell and Smale broke into a property in Redruth. Amoah was armed with a Beretta handgun and Mitchell a hammer. All 3 men had been on CCTV travelling to the property in a car. Footage was played to the court which showed Smale standing on the road while both Amoah and Mitchell walked towards the property. 8 minutes later, Amoah, Mitchell and Smale were seen scattering away from the house, leaving 2 men seriously injured, having been shot and bludgeoned. The victims, who were known to the offenders, all lived in the property and had been at home when Amoah and Mitchell knocked on the back door. One of the occupants in the house could see a figure at the back door holding a gun and raised the alarm to the other occupants just as Amoah and Mitchell started breaking the door down. Once inside, Amoah and Mitchell, who were wearing balaclava, set about their violent attack with Amoah, shooting one of the victims in the back as he tried to flee. Mitchell chased down another victim as he ran upstairs by hitting him repeatedly over the head with a hammer. All the while, Smale was outside acting as a lookout. Upon hearing a commotion, the 3rd victim barricaded himself into his room upstairs but sustained a cut to her head after one of the offenders tried to force his way into the room. The men then burgled the house, taking cash and one of the victim's passports. Police were alerted by the ambulance service to reports that a man had been shot in the back, and armed response officers were sent to the scene and a manhunt was underway. Extensive CCTV trawling meant that detectives closed the net on their suspects. Smale was located and arrested in a field as he attempted to flee. Amoah was found a short time after hiding under a sofa and an address, and Mitchell was arrested the following day and all were taken to custody, charged and remanded. Following searches inside the property, a handgun was found wrapped in a cloth in a children's toy basket. DNA evidence on the gun proved to be Amoah's. A hammer left behind at the crime scene was found to have had Mitchell's DNA evidence on it, along with the victim's blood. Following the shooting, the gunshot victim was rushed to hospital with life-threatening injuries and had to undergo multiple operations and blood transfusions. The bullet, which is still lodged in the victim's chest, had missed his heart by just 2 millimeters. The second victim sustained a laceration to his head and arms, which were not life-threatening as a result of the hammer attack. Detective Inspector Dave Egan, the senior investigating officer in this case, said Amoah kept a dangerous firearm at his home without fear. He brazenly took it out onto the streets and into another person's home with the intent of causing serious harm to someone who, faced with such a weapon, had no choice but to flee, resulting in him to be shot in the back as he did so. The victim suffered extremely serious life-threatening injuries and had to go through multiple operations and is extremely lucky to be alive today. He avoided being killed by a couple of millimeters. While firearms offences are extremely rare in this county, sadly we see all too often people losing their lives or being seriously injured through drug-related violence. Detective added, my officers worked tirelessly on this investigation to ensure the individuals responsible were brought to justice. He said, I'd like to thank my team for their hard work and diligence in this case, which shows how devastating the consequences of gun crime can be, not only on victims, but their families, but also the wider communities. And guys, in this next news story, a teenager has been jailed for 5 years after a loaded handgun was found in a house in Birmingham. It was found wrapped in carrier bags in the bottom drawer of Miller's home in Handsworth last November. Officers searching the property also found a red bandana, which is a hallmark of the Birmingham gang he is believed to be linked to. Miller admitted to owning the gun and bullets and was jailed for 5 years for possession of a firearm, and he was also given a 3-month consecutive order for the possession of ammunition. Detective Sergeant Mark Jeromes of the Major Crime Proactive Team said, "We received info from the community that Miller was storing a weapon at his bedroom and acted quickly to get the weapon safely off the streets. We believe Miller is part of a gang involved in criminality in Birmingham, and the removal of this weapon would be a significant blow to this gang's operations." So guys, in this next news story, a man who claimed he was being threatened by the mafia has been jailed for shooting his ex-wife's nephew. Giorgio Aslani, who's 59, from Albania, was convicted of causing GBH with intent and possession of a firearm over on Sack in Hertfordshire in June 2022. Aslani of Waltham Abbey had claimed a mysterious man called the Commander had ordered him to take responsibility. He was jailed for 13 years. Aslani drove to a house in Waltham Cross where the man and his brother were working and fired twice at the victim. The victim claimed the barrel had been pointed at his face, but he raised his left hand and then saw white smoke. One bullet through his left hand and the second embedded itself in his hand. The men then began fighting on the ground, and one of the victim's work colleagues helped restrain Aslani until the police arrived and arrested him. Prosecutor Stephen Weidman told St Albans Court the defendant had previously been married to the aunt of the victim. The relationship ended, but acrimony endured. There was reference to a property in Albania. The victim, who was left-handed, told the jury during a trial in November that he suffered flashbacks, had been unable to work, and his hand needed multiple operation. Aslani told the jury he'd been threatened by the mafia and that a mysterious man called the Commander had ordered him to take responsibility. The defence counsel, Liam Loughlin, said his client, who worked as a tiler, was of previous good character in the UK and maintained his innocence, and the judge Lana told him that background to the case appeared to be a dispute between you and your ex-wife. Once again, guys, if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel, give this video a little like and share it with others as well, as it will help with the algorithms and promote it for other people to watch as well. Once again, big respect going out to each and every one of you, and I appreciate the love and support that you show this platform. It's your boy GC. Keep it locked, keep it real.